it's so hard to really know if people are doping or not, and this happens even today. And this happened like this. There's a documentary called Icarus on Netflix about the Russian doping program that they have with the Olympics. They had chemists find out ways of giving you this doping, but for it not to appear on tests, right? Because the tests are very specific for what they're looking for. So if you're able to tweak it a bit, then you get past the test, right? So wouldn't you say, because it's unfair that some people might figure out a way to get away with doping and others cannot, then it should just be like, okay, everybody can dope? Because otherwise, then you really get the disadvantage, right? Like in the Tour de France, Lance Armstrong was like, hey, you want to take doping? Like, everyone's doing it. Kind of seems like when you're offered drugs as a kid, like, everyone's doing it, bro. But he knows this. Like, he knows his whole life he's been working for this, and he's super good. He knows he's the best, but he knows that he cannot win or might not win if he doesn't get to the same standard as the rest with that advantage. Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know. I don't have an answer for it, but sort of help me here with understanding what is the line. Like, should we have a line for doping, or should you just be like, do whatever the fuck you want? You know, like.
Well, I don't know if we should be letting them do whatever the fuck they want, because at the end of the day, you don't know what some of these, like, especially like man-made doping could create long-term effects, right? But at the end of the day, you are the professional, and you have the ability to choose what you want and don't want. And I understand that there's some pressures and things like that if everybody's doing it or whatever, but I'm going to be, to the best of my abilities, and I know I'm super competitive and everything, but like, if I'm not going to take, let's say, steroids, right? I'm going to give myself that holistic boost, right? If you know, in the case of football, I find that to be more wrong than, you know, the actual
like the biking doping. Well, I think one thing that comes into it is that what they do to the football players is actually gonna hurt them long term.
That's what I mean, not only are they cracking, you know, back to back and creating concussive issues like down the line, but I also feel like, you know, you start putting these like isolated pain medication into something, and you know, that could deteriorate them, but you only need them for 10 years,
right?
But you know what I mean?
You're definitely fucking them up at a faster rate if, instead of them resting when their body's telling them like, hey dude, this shit hurts, right? You're like, all right, let's put some painkillers and go out there. Like, that's gotta be bad. Like,
yeah,
for sure.
I cannot see how that's like gonna be A-okay down the line, you know?
Yeah, and that's not even taking about the concussion part, which is, you know, super serious.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we already have enough issues. So at the end of the day, the sport cannot get in the way of the quality of life for the person to a certain degree. And what that degree is, well, you know, that's at what the person, the actual athlete is okay with. And okay, you know, I think Lance Armstrong in this case should be saying, okay, look, like, yeah, we could be open about it. We can be open about giving saying, hey, you know, I'm training and my training is this, you know, or my doping level is what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I think there should be an open thing. But if you're gonna try and be sneaky, then really it's up to the sport to create a good enough test to test anything and everything non-natural. And if they don't catch it, then, you know what I mean?
I think the problem is that when you're testing something, there's not like a magical thing that you could be like, all right, test this for everything not natural. Like, you have to specify. Right? So I think, I get what you're saying though. Ideally, it's a very important point, because this is one of the reasons why I don't look at Lance Armstrong like I look at him like a somebody to look up to, and people would disagree with that. But the reason is because with someone like Lance Armstrong, well, first of all, the doping that they were doing is not, from what I understand, detrimental to their health. But besides that, it's like, ideally you want a system that tests everyone and everybody can do this safely without cheating. That's what you would want, ideally. But if you're not able to do that, as a rider yourself, as an athlete, would you risk losing and not going with your career because you decided not to, take this drug that everyone else is taking? Like, you get me? Like, a lot of times, the way that these guys describe it, like Lance Armstrong, they're competing in a sports where the testing for doping is so behind to the actual reality. So it's like, you would want, as a legitimate athlete, for those tests to be efficient so that they can weed out the ones that are cheating, so to speak. But if everyone is doing it and there's no way to stop it, I cannot put the blame on the one that did it and won it all. And this is coming from somebody that I think I agree with you. Like, I do think at the end of it, it should be wanting to protect the athletes. You don't want to put the athletes in a position where they have to make a decision of continuing their normal life or going into a dangerous sort of dark place so that they can compete. So you would want there to be an association that makes sure no one is cheating so that you don't have to go in those dangerous waters. But if that's not the case, then I don't think you can blame the ones that did it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I and to be honest with you, I really don't think that if they're competing in a sport that is not up to par, then we as sport watchers, we just need to talk about, either petitioning for the sport to cough up the money and do it. Because we're about to get the coronavirus vaccine in record time. You're gonna tell me you can't test for at least the main ones. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you would think that we could. Yeah, you would think that should be already solved.
We're at this point where if it's not solved, it can be solved.
Should be, right?
Yeah, it should be. Now, I know that the whole Lance Armstrong thing happened 5 years ago?
Nah, even more.
More, right? So, okay, we're back then, 10 years or whatever it is, ago.
It's 20 years ago. That's when he started winning those tours.
Yeah, but when
Shep popped off
scandal?
Was like around 07, 06.
So wow, really, it's been that long.
I remember when the little Armstrong.
Yeah.
Oh, because this guy had cancer. I think he had one of his testicles removed, and then he went and won again.
Yeah.
This guy's a fucking legend. I don't care. I don't understand how people can hate on him. But like, for example, I don't know if it was Sammy Sosa, but one of those guys got caught with this bat that had cork inside. Remember that?
Okay. Yeah.
And I think they found out because the bat broke and and then they saw inside that it was hollow. I think that was like that's
something
easy.
Like that.
That's easy to sort of it's easy to recognize that it's cheating, and it's easy to test it. Like, okay, we're gonna look at all the bats in an X-ray machine, and we're gonna or we're gonna drill them. Like, I don't know. It's easy to know, but when it comes to doping, it's easy. It's hard to sort of categorize what is cheating and what is not, because you were saying some things like, having a good rest, that's gonna make you perform better. What about protein shakes and energy bars?
Or that's what I'm saying, or pre-workout. I mean, that inevitably like starts your dopamine receptors and like gives you all of like the focus that you need. Well, technically, I mean, I don't know to what degree you at that level of athleticism, like I don't know what your own blood is, how far more advanced can you get. But at the end of the day, like, if you need a blood transfusion, let's say, I don't know, like, let's take the Olympics, for example, right? The Olympians, these Olympic people, they come to where the Olympics are going to be held weeks before, especially when it's like a colder environment or a higher altitude, because they need to perform at the same level they're performing, but get used to the environment in which they're doing it, right? Does that give the edge to those people who train in that environment all their lives?
Yeah.
Are we testing? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and is it fair for those who are coming in? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a sport's a sport. You nut up and shut up. You know what I mean? Let's go. But especially when it comes to your own blood, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you're not Bruce Banner getting the Hulk freaking